buses are big, dirty, polluting vehicles. Or are they? So according to the Confederation for Passenger Transport, one bus can take as many as 75 cars off the road, which is not bad. But what about if that bus was electric? Even better. How about if that bus used 100% renewable power to power it? And even better, what if some of that power came from on-site solar generation? Well, that's exactly what the team at TBZS were trying to do. And for the next 10 minutes, I'll take you through how we partnered with them to make that happen. So I've been in commercial roles now for almost 20 years. And if there's one thing that I can say that is an absolute truth, it is the people that make the projects. And that was completely true when it came to the guys at TBZS. So they were fun, they were professional, even you, Ben. And also, they shared our vision in terms of trying to decarbonize the heaviest vehicles out there. And that's exactly what we do at VEV. So VEV is here to serve businesses exactly like TBZS. We're here to help them electrify. And we electrify the heaviest vehicles out there. So vans, trucks, and buses. And in TBZS, we found some very like-minded people. So TBZS, they don't just talk the talk when it comes to electrification and saving the planet, they walk the walk. They've already moved their entire diesel bus fleet to HVO, but they want to go one step further and electrify that entire fleet by 2029. So how do they do that? Well, the first step, to think about the vehicles, you can see a couple of gentlemen in the grey jackets there from MagTech. So MagTech will be repowering those vehicles from HVO to EV, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But first, we're going to dig into some of the challenges that TBZS faced when trying to meet this noble intent. So first of all, power. We often find with customers that power is the biggest challenge they face when electrifying. Both the cost of power, but also the availability of power. TBZS is a classic example of that. They're paying very high electricity rates, and also they had quite a small connection in terms of the grid at their site in Wandsworth. So power, by far the biggest challenge. However, it's not always the first thing that people think about when electrifying. Typically, they think about the vehicle. Does it have enough range? Does it have enough capacity, payload? Well, in terms of bus, and not all routes can be electrified, but in terms of bus, there are many vehicles out there that can do many of the routes. Typical electric bus these days can do 200, even 250 miles from one charge. In terms of TBZS, they were doing far fewer miles than that. They had pretty short routes, pretty long charging windows. So the vehicles themselves, actually not that difficult. Same on the charging side. When you've got that long charging window, you don't need the big fast chargers. So that bit was fairly simple as well. It's the power that was the real challenge. And I'll take you through how we solved that later. But power was not the only challenge. So you can see from the picture here, TBZS have a beautiful old building out in Wandsworth. Lovely traditional bus depot. The problem is with that lovely traditional bus depot, very tight on space, as well as being tight on power. And also we're trying to install a solar system for them, and it's a listed building. Quite hard to get the panels on the roof of the said listed building. So we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about the ambition of TBZS, and the next step we need to go to before talking about the solution is how to get to that solution. And that is by understanding the business operations of the business you're supporting. Now, the list you can see on screen here, this is not a completely exhaustive list of all the data you need to look at, but this is a good example of the key data you must understand if you're going to electrify your fleet. And you really need to get under the skin of that business and know the business you're supporting before you can build that solution. And so we spent quite a lot of time bugging Gavin and Ben and the team, trying to find out all this data and more so we could build the right solution for them. And this is what that solution looked like. So first of all, the chargers. So as I mentioned before, with the chargers, it's a long charging window, it's a pretty short route, and therefore you don't need fast DC charging in this case. We've seen a lot of customers overspec their solutions. We've seen them overspend by as much as 20 or 30%. And typically that's because they've got chargers that are faster than they need, they've got a grid connection that's larger than they need. We didn't want to make that mistake for TBZS, so we put in the 22 kilowatt AC chargers you can see there. We also provided some custom steels that made sure that they could fit the chargers into that constrained space in the depot. Also, for an operation like TBZS, reliability is of paramount importance. And therefore, we provided a full 24/7 remote monitoring package and a full maintenance package to go with it. So that's the easy-ish bit, the chargers. What about the power? So we've worked together with TBZS to try and help them realize their ambition of being a fully electric fleet by 2029. And the key part, as I mentioned before, is energy. So we've helped to build an energy strategy. With a supply partner, we've set them up with 100% renewable power. We've also designed the power upgrade solution they need, and we'll be managing and building that entire process for them from January next year. So that's energy. Of course, they want to reduce their energy bill as much as possible. So we've also worked with them to install a solar system. Now you can probably see from the picture on the left, those eagle-eyed people in the crowd, there are no solar panels on that roof. So we took that picture 2 weeks ago. The panels actually went up last week, and it is up and running now, I promise. Yeah, it's up, it's running, it's generating. And again, it's supported by a full 24/7 maintenance package, just like the chargers. So we've looked at the solar, we've looked at the energy, we've looked at the chargers, but one thing that is really, really important when it comes to building this full solution is integrating it. And that's where the digital platform comes in. So there's a VEV platform in there, and there's two main modules that helps to run this business. One is a smart charging platform, so it controls the chargers, charger scheduling, and the other part is the energy management system. So what this does between them, it connects all of those different aspects you can see on the screen. It connects the panels, the buildings, the vehicles, and the chargers. If you can connect all those elements, you can make it efficient. And that's the key to pulling this whole thing together. And the other part that it does, if you see the picture of Paul, there's Paul, that's Paul there. You see Paul looking at the screen in his office. What he's looking at there is one of the screens from VEV. And what we've done is we've worked very closely with our friends at Magtech. Magtech, as I mentioned before, they do the vehicle repowering, and they put their own telematics system on there. What we've then done is integrate that system with our VEV system. What that means is Paul can be in his office, he can look on that screen, he can see where all his buses are, he can see the state of charge of those buses, he can see how his charges are performing, he can see how much energy he's using, plus a huge amount of other data that we pulled together in that dashboard, and that allows Paul to run his business through the electric solution you can see there. What does this mean overall for TBZS? Well, they've now got a strategy, they've got a plan, and they've taken the first steps on that plan to become London's first fully electric sightseeing bus operation by 2029. They've got their first batch of chargers, they've got their solar system, they've got their software up and running. So between now and 2029, hopefully we'll continue working with them to roll out the rest of those chargers and get them to that ambition. Okay. And then finally, we were told to make this presentation not too salesy, but I make no apologies for putting this quote up there. And if you need to check if it's a genuine quote, Gavin himself is sat there. But there's nothing that makes me more happy than a happy customer, so I had to put that one up.